It is 3:34 p.m. This meeting of the Buildings and Standards Commission is called to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Irving Buildings and Standards Commission for November 20th, 2024. We work from a prepared agenda. Due to the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act, all comments to and deliberations by the Commission must be strictly limited to matters posted on today's agenda. Anyone wishing to address the Commission should ask the moderator for permission to speak on their specified item number. All persons to speak must be sworn in. If you plan to present evidence in any case today, that evidence must remain with City staff and become part of the case master file. If you need a copy for your records, City staff will be happy to assist you with that need. We limit the time for citizen comments to 3 minutes. You may request more time at the end of 3 minutes. A decision will be made whether or not to grant you additional time. A Spanish translator is available if needed. Ms. Silva, Senior Administrative Assistant for the Code Enforcement Department. If anyone in the audience plans to speak, would you please stand as you are able and raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to present is true and correct? I do. Thank you. Ms. Silva, do we have proper notification on all cases that would be heard this afternoon?
The agenda for this meeting was posted in accordance with law at least 72 hours prior to this meeting as certified by the City Secretary's office. A notice of this hearing, as required by law, has been advertised in a newspaper of general circulation in the city at least 10 days prior to this hearing. A copy of the notice is included in the packets provided to the Commission. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Linda Silva, soy secretaria del Departamento de Código de la Ciudad de Irving. Soy la traductora por esta tarde. Estaré disponible por si alguien necesita ayuda. Gracias.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the items of the public agenda. Our first two items are the approval of minutes from our last work session and public hearing. Do I hear any motions from the Commission?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion from Commissioner Metters. Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
We have a second from Commissioner Welch. Let's bring up the vote. The till is one short. Can we get Mohammed? I believe he needs to be added to the dais.
Sorry, I voted.
Yeah, yours is a technical problem. They're just gonna.
Yeah, I believe the system's been.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Okay, with that, we'll move on to items for individual consideration.
Julia Cuellar, Code Enforcement Building Standards Program Specialist, here to present Agenda Item 3, continued case BSCP 2306-0001, 2820 West Rochelle Road. This was a single-family dwelling that was vacant, and it failed to meet minimum requirements in Chapter 8. It was substandard and was unsafe for human habitation. This case was opened in June 26, 2023. The property was sold on July 3rd, 2024. The new owner immediately began remodeling of the structure with applicable permits. By July 28, 2024, new windows had been installed, interior work began, and the exterior was being cleaned up. By October 23, 2024, all repairs were completed. Minor cleanup and landscaping set out to get completed. On November 13, 2024, staff confirmed that the property had been brought into compliance with the minimum standards of Chapter 8. With that in mind, staff respectfully request that the Commission close this case due to compliance. This concludes the presentation of this case.
Thank you. Is there any property owner or representative thereof who wishes to speak to this case? Is there anyone at all who wishes to speak to this case? Okay, with that, we'll close this matter to the floor. Any comments from the commission? Any questions for our witness? Okay, with that, we will begin our, with that, do I hear any motions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the recommendation in full.
We have a motion from Commissioner Metters. Do I hear a second?
I second that motion, and I just want to say for the record, and I concur with Commissioner Metter in his statement, that thank you for the great job you did with this case. We appreciate it.
You're here. With that, we'll go on to a vote. Okay, on to our next item.
Dale Demarest, Code Enforcement Building Programs Coordinator, here to present Agenda Item 4, Continued Case, BSCP 1808-0003, 2333 Hillendale Drive. This property was originally found substandard and unsecured in August of 2018. A fire occurred in January of 2019. At the April 23, 2024 hearing, the Commission readopted the findings and set a completion date of May 23, 2024 for the repair or demolition of the structure. Staff continued to work with the owner and the title company towards the sale of the property. However, before the July 2024 hearing, the sale was once again halted due to paperwork concerns, and so the Commission ordered the owner to appear at this hearing and provide an update. On August 28, 2024, staff inspected the property and found that no progress had been made, thus marking 1,388 days since the last time any work was done on this property. This case was brought before the Commission on 18 separate occasions. This slide shows the dates of those hearings and the orders that were issued by the Commission. This is not a typical path that a case would take. However, it does represent the willingness of both the Commission and city staff to work with an owner to try and resolve these cases through both hardships that an owner may face and legal hurdles that prevent the city from pursuing a more aggressive process. With that in mind, the lack of progress found on August 28, 2024 mandated that the city staff proceed with the demolition of the structure as ordered by this Commission. On October 1st, 2024, gas, electricity, and water utilities were disconnected. The demolition company applied for the demolition permit, and staff posted placards on all sides of the building and notified all surrounding property owners of the pending demolition dates and times. On October 7th, 2024, demolition of the structure began at approximately 8 a.m. On October 9th, 2024, demolition of the structure was completed. Property has been graded and seeded, and silt fence has been installed. With this in mind, staff would respectfully request that the Commission close this case due to compliance. This concludes the presentation of this case.
Thank you. At this time, does any property owners or persons representing thereof wish to speak to the Commission? Any testimony from any other persons as well? Okay, with that, we'll close this matter to the floor. Do I hear any deliberations from the Commission? Any Questions for any witness?
Was this demolition done by the city or by the owner?
The city. Yeah,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah.
The city did the ordinance.
Was this demolition done by the city or by the owner?
The city.
Oh, the city, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, we will begin our deliberations. As chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the staff's recommended order in full. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chairman, once I get my buttons corrected, I'll make a second to the motion.
We have a second from Commissioner Metters. I believe we can proceed to a vote. I'm told without the screen that this motion passed unanimously. Okay, on to item number 5.
Dale Demers, Code Enforcement Building Programs Coordinator, here to present agenda item number 5, continued case BSCP 2311-0001, 251 O'Connor Ridge Boulevard. This is a commercial building with a 2-story parking garage. On July 31st, 2018, a section of the upper deck of the parking garage collapsed. On July 15th, 2024, the ownership had their demolition contractor apply for a permit to remove the remaining portions of the parking garage. Demolition began on August 28th, 2024. By October 23rd, 2024, the parking garage was demolished and debris was removed. Staff spoke with owners' representatives in the last week regarding the plans for the retaining walls. They are waiting for an engineer report that will tell them what repairs need to be made. The contractor will make the required repairs to the walls and have those repairs approved by the same engineer. When the retaining walls are repaired, staircases like this one will be resecured and leveled. With that in mind, staff respectfully request that the commission order the owners to appear at the January 22nd, 2025 hearing to update the commission on the progress of the project. Depending on the level of progress and time, staff may recommend civil penalties and be assessed a failure to comply with the July 23rd, 2024 order to repair the structure. This ends my presentation at this time.
Thank you. Does city or anybody with a vested interest in property wish to have a question for Mr. Demarest? Okay, does anybody, any owners or a person with a vested interest have anything like to give testimony on this item? Anyone else in the audience? Okay, with that, we will close it to the floor. Any comments from the commission at this time? Okay, with that, do I hear any motions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the staff recommendation in full.
We have a motion from Commissioner Metters. Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
And a second from Commissioner Smith. We can bring up the vote. Motion passed unanimously. On to item 6.
Dale Demers, Code Enforcement Building Programs Coordinator, here to present agenda item 6, continued case BSCP 2403-0002, 1016 Compton Avenue. This is an occupied single-family dwelling that is substandard and unfit for human habitation. This case was opened in March of 2024. The overall condition of the house can be seen from the street. Since the hearing on July 23rd, 2024, there have been no attempts to make repairs to the structure. In some cases, it appears that some old siding was possibly removed, only to be replaced by weathered, used plywood. Throughout the exterior of the house, you will see siding or plywood in various levels of disarray. This is a non-supporting enclosing outside wall or covering with 50% damage or deterioration. The front porch supports are leaning, representing walls or other vertical members which list, lean, or buckle in excess of 1/4 inch horizontal measurement for each 1 foot of vertical measurement. The roof of the structure has several points of deflection and deterioration, which represent a floor or roof that has insufficient strength to be reasonably safe for the purpose for which it is used and to support the weight of emergency personnel and equipment as determined by the fire chief. Those roof issues continue through to the soffits of the structure, which show a floor, exterior wall, or roof that has holes, cracks, loose, rotted, warped, or protruding boards that may injure a person. Staff was granted access by the tenant on July 12th, at which time we discovered interior walls or ceilings that have holes, cracks, loose plaster, defective materials, or structural deterioration that may defeat the purpose of that wall or ceiling, or that may fail to protect the occupants from the structure from danger of collapse or a fire. Parts that can fall and injure a person or property. Access has not been granted since July 12th. We also found areas of the floor that represent a floor with an exterior wall that has a roof that has holes, cracks, loose, rotted, warped, or protruding boards that may injure a person. With that in mind, staff respectfully requests the commission, or staff respectfully reminds the commissions of the adopted findings and makes the following orders. Staff requests that the owner be ordered to pay civil penalties in the amount of $5 per each of the remaining 8 violations per day from September 24th, 2024 through November 20th, 2024, a total of 59 days for a total amount of $2,360 for failure to comply with the Commission's July 23rd, 2024 order. This concludes staff's presentation at this time.
Thank you. If there are no questions for this witness, do any vested persons with a vested interest or the representatives have anything to add to this? Do any other persons have anything they wish to say? With that, we'll close this matter to the floor. Any comments from the commission or questions for our witness? Actually, yes. We have the order is for a penalty, $5. Actually, one question. Mr. Demarest, is this a homesteaded property?
It is not.
It's not homesteaded. But actually, we're below the threshold for a homestead amount. I believe it's up to $10, even if it were, right?
Correct. As we have discussed in previous hearings, we like to do this on a consistent basis across the board with most of our other civil penalty cases where we start off on a certain threshold and have the ability to work up. So we're just trying to, not over devalue the property right out of the gate, but, use it as it's meant to be used.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Demarest, has the property owner been communicative at all?
If you will, you could look through the chronology that we provided in the packet, but if you'll see it, you'll go through and see all the phone calls that were made were all from this side of the thing. Every bit of contact that we've made in the last few months since July has been us initiating contact. We have not received any verbal contact from them. All we do know from last time we spoke is that they are trying to sell the property, which, we have seen nothing on that as far as any documents or anything to prove that fact.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Any motions from the commission?
I move to adopt the staff's recommendation in full.
We have a motion from Commissioner Smith. Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
And a second from Commissioner Metters. Motion passed unanimously. On to our last item.
Dale Demarest, Code Enforcement Building Programs Coordinator, here to present Agenda Item 7, new case BSCP 2401-0006, 1534 Luke Street. This is a single-family dwelling that is substandard and unfit for human habitation. This case was opened on January 30th, 2024. This photo shows an overall look of the structure and its current condition. You will see over the next several slides, this structure has all of the following violations. Walls or other vertical structural members which listling or vertical and in excess of 1/4 inch horizontal measurement for each 1 foot of vertical measurement. A supporting member exclusive of the foundation which shows 33% damage or deterioration. A non-supporting member enclosing outside wall or covering with 50% damage or deterioration. Parts that may fall and injure a person or property. A floor or roof that has insufficient strength to be reasonably safe for the purpose for which that floor or roof is used and or to support the weight of emergency personnel as determined by the fire chief. A foundation that has holes, cracks, buckling, crumbling, or defects that may cause said foundation to be unable to provide adequate support. A floor, exterior wall, or roof that has holes, cracks, loose, rotted, warped, or protruding boards that may injure a person. An interior wall or ceiling has holes, cracks, loose plaster, defective materials, or structural deterioration that may defeat the purpose of the wall or ceiling, or that may fail to protect the occupants of the structure from danger of collapse or fire. Damage by fire, explosion, wind, vandalism, or elements of nature, so there may be a danger to life, safety, or to the general health and welfare of a person. The roof, as noted in the previous code violations that we just listed, has deteriorated, and the soffits are rotting out from being exposed to the elements. Throughout the exterior of the house, you will see siding and plywood in various levels of decay, deterioration, or simply absence. Along with this side of the house, you can also see a concrete footing, which was added in anticipation of expanding the overall footprint of the structure. The dilapidated roof is being supported temporarily, but these 2x4 studs, which have cracked or deteriorated, are not adequately supporting the roof as intended. The roof over the back side of the house is also temporarily supported by these two supports, which do not appear to be properly installed or of adequate size to support this large section of roof. Foundation work was started as seen here in this photo, but not completed. It appears that the beams were filled approximately 3/4 of the way full and then left to solidify, and then eventually will be finished at the same time that the concrete floor is poured. Some of the rebar in these beams has been stepped on and bent, which may cause support issues once completed. This is the original wall of the house that is supporting a roof but does not have any foundation support under the entire length of the wall, leaving this area of the house subject to possible collapse. On the other side of the house, complete sections of the roof are missing, leaving the entire interior of the structure open to the elements. The owner applied for a permit on May 3rd, 2024, when the inspections department found the foundation and framing work were being done without a permit. The plan reviewer has reviewed this project on 4 separate occasions, as noted at the top of the slide. Each time, the reviewer responded with similar comment like the 7 requirements as seen listed here on this slide. This indicates that the applicant is struggling with the requirements for attaining a permit. The permit is still in review status and has not been issued. Ms. Attorney?
May I ask some questions of this witness?
Go ahead.
Did the city conduct a due diligence search to identify and locate all owners, mortgagees, lien holders, and other interested persons for this property?
We did.
Was a search conducted of the real property records of Dallas County, Dallas Central Appraisal District records, records of the Secretary of State for the state of Texas, assumed name records of Dallas County tax, utility, and other records for the city of Irving?
It was.
Was notice of this public hearing sent by certified mail, return receipt requested to all owners, mortgagees, and lien holders that you identified in the search, giving them at least 10 days advance notice of this hearing?
It was.
Was notice of this public hearing posted on the front door of the structure at least 10 days in advance of this hearing?
It was.
Was notice of the public hearing published in a newspaper of general circulation in the city at least 10 days in advance?
It was.
My apologies.
You're fine.
Are documents included in the commissioner's packet of materials which evidence the persons identified through the city's due diligence search for the property and the notification that was provided?
Yes,
Is this property dilapidated?
it is.
Is it substandard?
It is.
Is it unfit for human habitation?
It is.
Is it a hazard to the public health, safety, and welfare?
Yes,
Does it constitute an urban nuisance?
it does.
In your opinion, could this property be repaired without substantial reconstruction?
No.
Was the staff recommendation on this case?
With that in mind, staff respectfully requests that the commission adopt these findings and make the following orders. Allow city staff to make inspections, no later than January 19th, 2025 to complete the repairs or demolition of the structure. And if the structures on the property have not been completely repaired or demolished and the debris removed by January 19th, 2025, the commission authorizes the city of Irving, its agents or contractors to enter the property, demolish the structure, and remove all debris from the property on or after January 20th, 2025, and put the owner on notice of civil penalties of up to $1,000 per day for missed deadlines. This concludes my presentation at this time.
Thank you. If there are no further questions for Mr. Demarest, do any persons with a vested interest or their representative wish to speak to this? Hi, if you could speak your name
Al
and address.
34. Yo soy el propietario de esa propiedad.
Could we help with the microphone?
Oh, sí. Soy el propietario del 1534.
I am the owner of 1534.
Tengo un permiso en proceso
I have a permit
para
process,
proceder a todo lo pertinente al respecto.
so I can fix everything that's been listed.
Me han retrasado un poco todo el proceso y por eso he estado en esa condición.
The process has been a little backed up, and that's why the house is still in that condition.
No quisiera estar en esa condición. De mi parte ya lo hubiese terminado.
I wouldn't like to be in this position. If it were for me, I would have finished all the work already.
Debido a la restricción del inspector,
But due to
Tuve
the
que parar
restriction from
el
the
trabajo.
inspector, we had to stop all work.
debería de haber quitado el techo porque puse un permiso para quitar eso. Y él cuando llegó me dijo que no siguiera trabajando en eso y por eso está eso así.
I was supposed to remove the roof, but I didn't. So when he came, he told me that I was... ¿Lo puede repetir, por favor?
Claro que sí. El inspector llegó y me detuvo. Dijo que no siguiera quitando nada de lo que había quitado. Yo tenía un permiso para quitar el techo, reconstruirlo.
Okay. I had a permit to reconstruct the roof, but when the inspector came, he told me to stop everything I was doing. Prosiga.
Y bueno, luego me pidió planos. Tardé un poco para encontrar quien me diseñara los planos. Los presenté y ahora me está pidiendo otras cosas.
Then he asked me for the plans, and I was trying to find someone to get those for me, but I wasn't able to.
Y es por eso que está detenida la construcción.
And that is the reason why he stopped all work on the roof.
Solamente quisiera que me ayuden en eso a proseguir, porque lo que quiero es seguir. Yo no quiero tener mi casa de esa manera. Necesito tener en dónde vivir. Pero con estas restricciones, pues me ha puesto, como dicen ahora sí, la pata en el cuello.
I ask that if y'all can help me fix all the restrictions, because I really do want to continue with the work on my home. I need a place to live, but because of these restrictions, I cannot do anything to the house.
Entonces, viendo la situación, pues voy a presentar un permiso para demoler nuevamente eso, aunque ya lo había puesto el permiso, pero tengo que ponerlo nuevamente porque está expirado para seguir y salir de esta situación.
So due to the restrictions, I am going to have to apply for another permit and then wait for it to be issued in order for me to continue with the work. ¿Es todo?
Es todo.
And that will be it.
Gracias.
Come say back up here. I think we have some questions.
¿Tienen preguntas para usted?
Está bien.
What was his name again?
¿Qué era su nombre nuevamente?
José Correa.
José Correa.
Señor Clea. Can you walk us through, sort of step by step, the different elements of what you're trying to fix and how long they'll take?
¿Nos puede, por favor, llevar paso a paso por todos los elementos que tiene sorry, que componer en su casa y cuánto tiempo le va a costar
tardar.
cada uno? Ajá.
Bueno, en este caso se trata de reparar una parte de la fundación. Ya está en una gran mayoría. Si obtengo el permiso, trabajando en la fundación y si sale todo bien, pienso que un par de semanas son suficientes para terminar lo que es de reconstruir la fundación. Y
Okay, so foundation. Foundation, it's something he has to fix. He believes that in a couple of weeks, once he gets the permit, he can have that fixed.
luego para reconstruir las paredes y el techo considero unas 3 semanas o quizá unas 4.
Walls and roof would take about 3 to 4 weeks. Okay.
Luego seguir ya en todo lo que concierne, que viene siendo ya a instalar, bueno, lo eléctrico, instalar insulación, el sheetrock y el piso. Para eso ya tarda mucho más. Los procesos a veces son un poco más lentos.
¿Tiene un estimado?
Bueno, actualmente no lo tengo acá. Considero que son unos, para concluir con eso, considero que un par de meses.
Okay, so electric, insulation, sheetrock, and floor would most likely take some months.
Say that one more time, the number?
Months. He doesn't have an exact number. He just says that's going to take a little longer.
Could you get a better breakdown of those elements?
The last portion of it?
Yeah, the
Electric, insulation,
yeah, the
sheetrock.
electric, the insulation. I assume it's in that order: electric, then insulation, then sheetrock.
Okay. So, lo eléctrico, la insulación y el sheetrock, ¿a qué se refiere con eso? ¿Qué es lo que tiene que hacer?
Bueno, instalar lo que es el sheetrock, luego hacer todo el acabado. Perdón, se me olvidaba reparar la plomería.
Okay. So, what he means by electric, insulation, and sheetrock is pretty much the inside of the home. It would take him months, like after he's done with the first 2 things, which is
You're saying
foundation.
it'll take 1 month to do that entire thing?
I'm sorry?
He's saying 1 month is what it'll take to do electric, insulation,
No,
sheetrock?
it will take a couple months,
Couple
probably.
of months.
And he missed plumbing. ¿Cuánto para la plomería?
Considero que una semana.
Probably a week to get the plumbing fixed.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, we're expecting the foundation to take somewhere around 3 to 4 weeks, plus time for permits, the roof to take 3 to 4 weeks, plus time for permits, the electrical and insulation to take 2 months, plus time for permits, and then the plumbing to also take a week, plus time for permits.
Okay.
That would, it's not quite a year. That'd be 1 month, 2 months, 4 months. So that'd be 4 months or so plus permitting time, is what I'm hearing, is his plan.
Okay,
for-
so estima como unos 4 a 5 meses más el tiempo que tarden en darle los permisos que usted estima que pueda terminar las cosas.
Bueno, espero que sea así. Me gustaría terminarlo lo antes posible. En cuanto obtenga el permiso, yo procedo inmediatamente.
Okay, so he hopes it's around that time frame, but he really, really hopes to get the permits soon so he can do it as soon as possible.
Okay, so what I'm basically getting at is currently the staff's recommended order would be 2 months, which would not be sufficient time for him to achieve it. And he is committed to repairing this property and not demolishing it.
Okay, so básicamente lo que la orden dice el día de hoy es que le están dando 2 meses, pero usted se compromete a terminarlo en ese tiempo que usted está diciendo porque no quiere que demuelan su casa, ¿correcto?
Correcto.
Correct.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question for this witness? Since I've been doing all the talking.
Did you ask him if he's hired an engineer to work with him to help him prepare the documents so he can obtain a permit?
¿Ha contratado a un ingeniero para que le prepare los documentos del tiempo que va a tomar?
Bueno, con respecto a los planos, sí.
Okay, yes, he said he has the plans for it. He said he contacted someone.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
Looks like he need plumbing, electricals, insulations, everything. So that required a master electricians, master plumbers, and all these things to get the permit from the cities. Does he have all those things? Because he cannot do by himself, as per my understanding. So if he doesn't have, then it's another difficulties or burden on him.
So ya tiene también como para alguien para lo eléctrico, plomero, para que se puedan encargar una vez que usted ya obtenga los permisos.
Desde luego.
He does.
Has he priced out what all this is going to cost?
¿Tiene un presupuesto de lo que le va a costar todo esto?
No lo tengo escrito así. Aproximadamente considero, con lo elevado que están materiales y todo eso, considero unos 40, 45.
He don't have an exact, like an estimate right now, but he's estimating around 45,000.
That's for everything.
For everything.
Master electrician. I guess I have to ask, the house is basically not a house. It's got no walls, barely a ceiling. Why not just replace the whole house and redo it from scratch?
So dice él que la casa básicamente no es una casa. So, ¿sí ha pensado, o sea, tirarla y comenzarla de nuevo?
Bueno, actualmente como está, comprendo perfectamente que es una casa, porque ¿quién puede estar viviendo en eso que está así? Va a ser una casa ya cuando la reconstruya toda.
I understand the conditions, and yes, I know it's not really like a house, it's just the walls. But once I'm done with all the work, it's going to be a house.
Okay, any other questions from the commission right now? Okay, if I could ask a few questions of Mr. Demarest.
Le puede pasar el lugar al señor Demers. Gracias.
Yes, sir.
So it looks like, based on what I've heard, as far as scope and schedule goes, this is going to be 4 months labor plus permitting times. Having been through this, I'm going to assume at least 6 months is how long it would take if we were factoring in getting inspectors out and all that. How viable is this scope and schedule in terms of
It really
achievability?
goes back to what I've testified to before this commission. It really depends on how many people he gets on the project and how good they are at doing the work. This is being treated as a new construction permit through the City of Irving Building Inspections Department, being that it's new construction and not remodel, and the reason they base on that is based on the amount of work being done. So it falls under the requirements of all the current codes and the current requirements, and I think that's what the owner's having difficulty with, is getting past some of those newer requirements that we require on new construction homes. So as far as time frame goes, once the permit's issued, we can work with the scope and schedule and bring that back to the commission at the next hearing that he's due back in, which I believe is going to be March, based upon this order. And at that time, we'll have a better understanding where he's at and possibly a scope and schedule for you to adopt, if that be the need to do so, depending on how things go.
Okay, so this would be treated as a new build. You said earlier that you think the property should be demolished. I'm assuming that's because some of the existing setup wouldn't be to code. I'm assuming they're like the existing pipes that are buried beneath ground probably wouldn't work, or?
Well, I never state that anything should or should not be demolished. The owner has the right to choose whether he repairs or demolishes. I will tell you that what I see for the, when I testified regarding the new foundation that was being put in, it is being put in outside the original footprint of the house. So by technicality, based on what the owner has done at this point, is that everything that you see on the structure now will not be there when this is done, because it doesn't fit to the new footprint that he's doing for the house, all except maybe one wall. So that's, I'm not saying it's new knowledge. Typically, it would be in this case, as far as how a house gets enlarged from its original footprint. But that enlargement of the footprint is one of the things holding up his permit due to required setbacks and things that has to be met and has to be verified.
Okay, thank you. All right. I have another question for Mr. Correa. Senator Correa? Are you going to make the walls flush with the new footprint of the foundation?
Las nuevas paredes que va a hacer van a estar alineadas con la nueva fundación.
Correcto.
Yes, sir.
So essentially, all the wood structure there is coming down, or is the roof going to be extended to the wider wall width?
So, esencialmente, ¿va a tumbar todas las paredes para expandirse o cómo es que le va a hacer?
Bueno, en la parte de enfrente no, se van a quedar donde están. Estando en la parte de enfrente, en el lado derecho, va a quedar la pared ahí, solo que la voy a mover unas 4 o 5 pulgadas hacia adentro, pero se va a quedar la pared original.
Okay. So, solo la parte de enfrente va a quedar original.
Exacto.
Okay, so only the front portion of the house is going to stay the same. Everything else, he's gonna do it to the foundation, like build it up from the new foundation.
So I'm hearing is essentially he's demolishing almost all the house, save for the front face.
So, esencialmente va a demoler lo demás y nomás va a dejarlo de enfrente y lo demás lo va a reconstruir usted.
Bueno, como estoy expandiendo hacia el lado izquierdo, la pared que está ahí está en buena condición, pero como la voy a expandir, voy a mover esa pared hacia donde está la nueva fundación.
Okay, so he's saying he's only expanding. The expansion is towards the left side of the house. So that's the only wall that he's going to get rid of.
Okay, last question for me. Do you have anybody who's going to help you with this? How many extra workers can you bring on?
¿Cuántos trabajadores extras va a traer para que le ayuden con esto?
Bueno, voy a conseguir lo más que pueda. Si puedo llevar unos 15, 20, lo que sea posible, porque yo quiero es terminar lo antes posible. Ya estoy cansado de estar en esa situación.
I'm going to get as many as I can. If I can find 15 or 20 guys that can come and help me, I'm going to get them because I'm trying to finish this as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Gracias.
Again, Mr.
Gracias.
Welch, go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question
Oh.
of Mr. Demers.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Dale, does the new location of those walls encroach on the property lines? Is it still within zoning?
I would not know. I have not done the plan review myself. I just know it's one of the requirements that he has to provide a site plan showing the distances from the new wall to the property lines to make sure they match the required zoning setbacks.
I was just curious. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, while Mr. Demarest is at the.
Go ahead, Mr.
microphone,
Miller.
to clarify a couple of things. So right now, he has an application, the property owner, Mr. Chris, has an application in for a permit with the inspections department.
Correct.
The inspections department has responded back, needing additional information to understand things like what would the setbacks be and where will the walls finally be.
Correct.
And it's possible that depending on the information that's provided, the setback may trigger a zoning, a rezoning requirement that might have to proceed. And again, that's depending on what's provided.
It's possible.
That it's possible that expanding the sides of the house closer to the property line may trigger a zoning case that then would extend compliance time on the normal course of a project there.
Correct.
Cover that correctly?
That is correct, yeah. I mean, if it goes to a zoning case, we tend to let that process take its natural course because we really don't have any control over the timeframes of that process with that department. So we would obviously come back and recommend a continuance or something if that were to be the case.
All right, any more questions? We've got everything. Okay, before we close this to the floor, does anyone else wish to give testimony on this item? Okay, with that, we'll close it to the floor and begin our deliberations. We do have testimony, which amounts to a scope and schedule that says it'll take, call it 6 months. We're talking permitting. The dollar amount is been stated to be below 100,000, which is the threshold by which financial sureties would have to be given. I haven't heard any testimony to say it would be above 100,000, although it does question credulity how expensive this will actually be. Does anyone on the commission have any comments this time?
Can we ask Mr. Demarest to come back up?
Yeah, we
Mr.
can.
Demarest, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Real quickly, while we're doing that, I just want to make sure from a procedural justice standpoint, Julia, would you be able to summarize and translate the deliberation that's going on for Mr. Correas so that he's aware of what we're covering there? Thank you.
So would it be prudent for this, if we considered some sort of extension of time, given the appearance of some of the structure that's kind of hanging with sky hooks?
Staff has made a recommended order for 60 days to repair or demolish, along with asking you to adopt the findings. I would say from a staff's point, on every other case that we've done, we do this initially on every case as a means to put the owner on notice of what could potentially happen if nothing were to proceed forward. And I think it's vital that we try and maintain that as much as possible, which is why we made this recommendation. Just like with any case, if a owner is giving a recommendation of 60 days and they do not meet that because of a hardship or something, we take that in consideration. In addition, he always does have the opportunity to attend the next hearing he's required to come to with a detailed scope and schedule in hand, present it to you for consideration at that time, and then you'd be more apt to give him the amount of time that he needs to complete that. But at this time, staff's recommendation is that we adopt these findings, get it on record, and put him on notice if he fails to complete any part of this process as we move forward.
I guess part of my question is really about, looks like a more temporary bracing and shoring and.
I would leave that into the discretion of the building inspections department, which I am in communication with, asking them to, after this hearing, to take a look at that very thing and let them make that determination on what should be done with regards to the structure as it stands.
This does not appear to me to be a very short process that we're about to.
It really all depends. I mean, in all due respect to everybody involved here, The permit process is creating a bit of a hardship, but that's because it wasn't ever obtained at the beginning of this process.
Okay.
Had it been obtained, this house would probably be not even before you, had it been properly attained and been done in the right manner. So we are just looking for that manner to take its natural course, and through this order, we hope we get him in his house as fast as he would like to get in the house. That's our intention here, is for the house to be done for him.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman, may I ask a question of Mr. Demarest?
Don't go anywhere. Here we go.
Yes, ma'am.
Should the owner choose to demolish this property within that 60 days and start fresh? Staff is recommending that as one course of action. Should he choose to do that, would he be in compliance with the recommended order?
Absolutely, especially by January 25th for the next hearing, January 22nd, sorry, 2025. He would be in compliance at that point if it was a complete demolition all the way through, yeah.
So it's not that he has to have a completely rebuilt, complete home within that time period. It just needs to have remedied all of these violations that you have testified to.
It either has to remedy all these violations by being demolished or repaired, or he needs to appear before this commission and request more time through a scope and schedule as stated in the rules of the building and standards process.
Thank you.
Okay, so that would be kind of what is at issue here is what is the scope and schedule, which I would argue he has provided through his testimony. I'm assuming the scope and schedule is 6 months. I believe that just the labor portion was brought to 4 months or so and change, plus permitting, which can be quick, sometimes not so much. I guess the question just is, it just seems like a very high mountain to clear because this is essentially building an entire house, which I guess does often happen inside of 6 months. So I'm not sure if how much we are to consider the feasibility of it. I believe if we were to extend the deadline, the legal requirements have been met because there has been a scope and schedule, and it's under $100,000 as far as we're aware of. Any comments to that point from commission or city staff? Or council? No, nothing wrong with council.
I think from a city staff's perspective, it's difficult to gauge scope and schedule until the final plan sets are approved by the inspections department. We understand more about like the setback issue that's in play. You're in the ballpark, but I wouldn't be able to commit to something incredibly more firm than that at this point. I can tell you that nothing that's been described would be accomplishable in the 2 months that statute sets out for the first go-round of compliance there.
Okay, I think that's his way of saying is we have testimony that there is a scope and schedule of approximately 6 months, and there's nothing countermanding that. And that if he were to repair, he would need additional time, which is why that provision is put in. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to amend staff's recommended order and to amend the first section to, instead of stating January 19th, it should be May, I'm having trouble here. May 20th?
Are you making a motion?
Yes, this is a motion.
I would like.
I'm waiting for Shane
Okay.
to double check my math here, I'm assuming. About right, May 20th? Okay.
And I assume you're moving
Yes.
to accept the findings?
Yes, the motion
Okay.
is to accept the staff's
The
find.
staff's findings and extend the deadline?
Yes.
Okay, and I want to second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second from Commissioner Smith. Before we vote, do we have any deliberations? I know
Mr. Chairman, is that completion deadline as to both sections 1 and 2?
Yes, yes, thank you for bringing that up. All instances of the dates, January 19th, shall be changed to May 20th, and remove all debris. On point 2, where it says January 20th, it should say May 21st, 2025. So.
Your motion is to motion to adopt staff's recommended order with the revisions of any dates of January 19th being changed to May 20th, and any dates of January 20th being changed to May 21st. Is that correct?
Correct,
That
and
is
to adopt the findings
And-
that was on the record.
And otherwise to adopt staff's findings. And that motion, that's a motion that has been seconded by Commissioner Smith, and if there's no deliberations, can we proceed to a vote? Motion passed unanimously, and with that, we are adjourned.